So yeah, this past Labor Day weekend, we saw Shang Chi, the Marvel MCU movie, the latest entry in that long-running series. And the official synopsis reads thusly: Marvel Studios' Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings stars Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, who must confront the past he thought he left behind when he is drawn in the web of the mysterious Ten Rings. The film co-stars and I'm going to butcher a ton of names here. Actually, you know what's fucked up is I looked up the lead guy's name. It's Simu Liu, and I still fucked it up when I first said it. Tony Leung as Wen Wu, which is Shang-Chi's father. Aquafina as Katie, his friend. Yeah. Menger Zhang, Jesus, is Xiling. I believe that's his sister. Fala Chen is Zhang Li, which I believe is his mother. Florian Montanu is Razor Fist, and Benedict Wong is Wong. Who directed this thing? Destin Daniel Cretton. I don't think I've ever heard of him. I don't know what else he's done. All right, so first we're just going to do our general spoiler-free impressions of the film, and then we'll get in kind of a more spoiler-filled breakdown of the plot. So, guys, just kind of overall, how do you feel about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
I liked it. I think it's cool that Marvel's expanding into like new territories and trying new stuff. But I mean, obviously the formula is still the same. Overall, I thought it was fun. Fun experience. I liked it. It was a good time. I'll give my score at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It was maybe a little awkward at times. Just bringing in some new characters, and like I'd never heard of this character. I'm not deep into the universe or anything, but I mean, they've had some kind of like hits that weren't like mainline characters, so I can definitely see them trying to expand. And they've killed a couple people here and there, so they'll probably need a few things.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I liked the movie too. I thought it was pretty solid. And kind of like you said, like this is a character that, I don't really know. Like I've read a lot of Marvel comics, and like he does show up from time to time, but I think he was really born out of just like the craze over like Bruce Lee and like those kind of kung fu movies that were popular in the '70s. And at the time, Marvel was like, well, let's just make a character that's like this, But much like the Guardians of the Galaxy that I knew, before that movie came out, I didn't really know much about those characters. And so I like that here. And to be honest, I have no idea how much this strays from the Shang-Chi comics.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I always thought it was Shang-Chi until I saw this movie, and I'm like, oh, Shang-Chi, okay.
Well, that's another thing with side characters. I think you get a little more freedom in what you can do. So I can see the appeal from that angle, too.
Oh, yeah, it's true. You don't have all those fanboys who are like getting really upset about you.
They're going to be, Superman's penis isn't 7.5 inches long.
That's true. Yeah.
But just speaking in generalities, I do like a good like kung fu fight, and I thought the fight choreography in this movie was actually pretty good and pretty fun. And we mentioned Aquafina. I did like her as kind of the comic relief character. I thought she was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, she was. I mean, she's definitely a different kind of character, kind of goofy, and she's got this kind of raspy voice, and it's kind of like a goofy, stupid, but not entirely.
Yeah.
But she's definitely kind of breaks the mold, and
And she kind of brings like us for the ride, right? Because she's representing like us, the viewer, kind of.
Kind of
right?
a more common.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, I enjoyed it. I don't know if this would like break my top 10 Marvel movies list. Probably not, but definitely a solid entry. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing him in the future.
Definitely. All right, so should we get into spoilers ahead territory?
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Get into the plot here.
Now, I will say, like, you guys are going to have to help me out on this because I always say this, but I think it's more true with this one, like remembering the different plot points and stuff.
So, I mean, I'm not sure this is exactly where it starts, but I think probably the easiest way is to start with the dad's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the movie starts.
Because I thought it kind of jumped around a little bit, but...
Well, it starts with a woman narrating, and maybe that's...
the mom?
Yeah, it must
or
be.
the aunt.
Maybe the aunt.
And she's basically, telling the story of Shang-Chi's father. And at the beginning of the movie, he has the 10 rings already. And I forget what she says, because she's like, maybe he found them in some ruins.
In a
Maybe.
crater or a
Right,
tomb.
so it's like 10,000
Yeah.
years ago or something. It's like folklore at this point.
And basically, he's on his horse. He's got his army behind him, and they're going to fight this other army. Now, I got a question for you, and this is skipping ahead a little bit. There's a conversation later on in the movie between the father and Shang-Chi and Aquafina, where he's like talking about the importance of names. And he's like, I've had many names over the years. People called me these different things. And one of them, I want to say, it was the Great Khan. So are they inferring that he was Genghis Khan?
Oh, shoot. I didn't even pick up on that.
I didn't. I could see where that might make sense.
Yeah, because he did say he ruled from, like, the Caspian to over, like, the Mongol Empire, right?
Right. Well, essentially, at some point, it sounded like basically he was a warlord that essentially, I thought, pretty much conquered everybody. But I guess that doesn't really fit with everything. But
Well, like, behind the scenes conquered. Like, he would control
Right.
whose government does what or whatever, like, stuff like that.
Yeah, I when he dropped that line, I was like, oh, is that what we're supposed to believe? But I guess it could just be one of those things that you, maybe not.
right, that's probably is the reference. But so yeah, he's off warlording and essentially like conquers the world or whatever. And so he gets to the point where like he doesn't have anything left to conquer. So he kind of slips into legend. There's a legend of this mythic place called, is it Talao, something like that?
I think so.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
It's Talo.
Talo, maybe. And it's like this mythical forest with magical creatures and a hidden civilization. And so he decides he's going to go conquer that.
Yeah, so I do remember, like, it jumped ahead. So first he has that battle where he basically shows off the 10 rings and he just wrecks shop on that other army. And then it jumps ahead to, like, 1996. And now he's, like, the head of this group or whatever. And he's got, like, this stronghold in the mountains. And, yeah, like you're saying, he's, like, he tracked down that Talos place. And he's like, I want to go see it. They have, like, some special martial arts there or something.
Something, yeah.
So yeah, they lead an expedition there. They're driving through this forest, and all of a sudden, like, the trees start moving.
Right. It's kind of like the maze in Harry Potter. Like it closes behind you. It does weird stuff.
Yeah, and so like it starts closing behind them. So like they drive, and like it basically catches up to him and shoots a car off a cliff, and like the guys that were with him just like fucking go and die, and like he bails out because he's got the rings or whatever. So yeah, he walks through the forest a little bit, and he finds this hidden place, and like he runs into a woman there who's like, I don't know if she's like a guardian of that place or whatever.
Maybe she was a gatekeeper because she was the only one there out of the community.
Yeah, that's at that part of the movie. That's the only like person that's there. And so they start getting into this. They basically have one of these like crouching tiger, hidden dragon type of fights where they're just like gliding all over the place, and
Like she controls like the wind or something.
it looked like that. Yeah,
And like staring lovingly into each other's eyes.
Oh, that was porn right there. That was very tense. There was a lot of tension.
yeah. They have this fight where they're basically like dancing almost, and like you can see like he likes her, and like they're kind of like falling in love as they fight. Although at the end of the movie they mirror that same thing with him and his son.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's an intimate moment.
But anyway, it ends. She like dumps him in the water.
Well,
and-
to be fair, he did say to his son, "You look like your mother."
But she dumps him in the water, and he's like, in love with her. So then it jumps ahead, I guess, a year or whatever, and we see that they have a child together. It kind of actually jumps through time a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of an interesting character in that, like, he's been a warlord. He's obviously done some pretty terrible shit. And they kind of try to turn him by becoming a family man because he falls in love. He has his family, but, it goes through all that. And, like, I guess for his marriage, like, he lays down the rings. Like, he doesn't use them for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And,
starts
like,
growing
he
older.
gets older
Although, why would he have to do that?
No, he didn't have to.
because of his nagging wife.
Does he just want to grow old with her? Is that kind of.
I don't know. They does mention that she asked him to put him away or put him down or something.
Oh, okay.
So he does that for her, and like he's happy in love or whatever. And then like from his past, like some gang like he'd fucked with in his other life comes and they have a fight scene. They kill the mom, and the kid has to witness it. So it's all messed up.
So going back, so yeah, we see him holding Shang as an infant, and then we see him as maybe like a 3-year-old or something with the mom, and the mom gives him this green like pendant, like necklace thing,
Right.
talisman or
both
whatever.
kids get a pendant.
Yeah, except we don't know about the other kid at this point. So after she puts the necklace on him, and she's like, she says something like, "This is to remind you of where you're from," or something like that.
That's how it's supposed to show you your way home or something.
Yeah.
Something like, yeah. I think that's exactly what it said. And so then it skips to modern days. So now I guess Shang would be like in his early 20s or something like that, and he's wearing the pendant. I guess we kind of get the impression that he probably never takes it off. And he's in his apartment. He starts like doing push-ups, and we see that he's all muscular and whatnot. And then he's getting ready to work, like he's putting on a shirt and stuff, and it kind of makes you think like he's maybe like a businessman getting ready, like in fancy clothes or whatever. And it cuts to like this fancy car pulling up, and this guy gets out of it, but the guy's not him. And then he tosses the keys to Shang, and then it shows that him and Aquafina are valets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody did a breakdown of that, and they talked about how, like, in a lot of Marvel movies, like, the main character is, like, Tony Stark, who, like, pulls up in a badass car and looks like that. So they were kind of playing off of that when they did that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. A little the other end of the spectrum.
They actually, I guess, could have, like, did a cameo of, like, some rich guy in the MCU right there,
Oh, yeah,
if they
true.
wanted to. But yeah, so Aquafina, like, she takes the keys because she wants to drive, and like he's like, you gotta be responsible or whatever, and she's like, I'm gonna be. And then he gets in a car, and of course she's like driving it all over. She's driving all crazy because she's Asian. No,
No, because she's a woman. No, that's messed up.
so they get off work. Oh, and then it cuts to, and they do this a couple times. So they're having dinner with like this old high school friend of theirs, and like her new husband or whatever. And like she basically, like, they're friends, but she's like basically telling them that they're kind of wasting their lives, and like they should do more with their lives and get a better job, basically. And then like they get out of there, and they're like, "What is she talking about? We're so responsible." Or whatever, and valeting is like a hard job or whatever. And he's like, well, I guess we should go home and sleep. And like, I think she's like, well, we could do that, or we could. And then it cuts to them like in the club, like singing karaoke.
Karaoke and drinking.
Yeah, partying it up.
Responsible.
So then it's the next morning. He goes to her house because they like ride the bus together each morning or whatever to work. And like we're introduced to her family, and like her family is kind of similar, right? In which they're like, yeah, you need to do more with your life.
Get married.
Yeah, and like the grandma there is like, why don't you kids get married? And he's like, we're just friends. Now, do you guys think they're shaping up for them to be a couple?
I mean, maybe, but you can play that tension for a while, though.
I hope not. I like them as friends.
Okay. So yeah.
Although I will say this is like, it feels a little weird that he has superpowers and she's going forward with basically nothing. And I'm like, is this another Hawkeye situation?
I was going to say, as we get to the end of this movie, we got a Hawkeye
Got
replacement.
another Hawkeye coming. The first one didn't even fall off the fucking cliff.
They still want to replace his ass.
His contract's going to run out at some point.
It's like we only have to pay him $20,000 a movie.
So they get on the bus, they're going to work, and finally we get some more action in this movie. So guy comes up and he's like, hey, give me that necklace you got there. And he's like, eat shit, whatever he says. But the guy won't leave him alone. And then these other guys come up and like they're going to start fighting him. And like this is where we find out like Aquafina has like no idea of this guy's past and that he can fight. And so he just starts like now we get our first kind of kung fu fight scene, and he's just like wrecking these guys, and she's like, "What the fuck's going on?" And they have this like comedy bit where this guy on the bus starts like filming them for his like YouTube channel or whatever, or TikTok or whatever. Did you guys like that aspect of it?
I liked it. Mostly, I liked it because he was in Spider-Man too. So he was like the guy who was like, "Hey, do a flip, Spider-Man," and like he did that flip for him.
Oh, I didn't know they reused the same guy.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny. I guess
I like that.
Yeah, I didn't.
I would have never put that together just to use the same guy. Mm-hmm. He'll be the new like Stan Lee. They'll put him in everything where he'll have like some sort of.
I don't know. I'm still fairly like confident we're going to see Stan Lee again, even though he's dead.
All right.
I mean, what would they do with him that would be respectful?
I mean, just give him a cameo. I mean, don't have him like shitting or something.
But I mean, what kind of cameo? Like,
no, he's done a million cameos.
But he wasn't in this movie. I figured if they would have done that, they would have added him to this too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But I mean, you think they're gonna like CG Tarkin him like?
I think they could.
They could, but that never looks good, and I don't know. I don't think they'll do that.
I mean, it looked okay when they did Kurt Russell.
I don't know. It always looks a little plasticky, and you can tell. I mean,
it's not perfect, maybe.
I don't think they need to do that.
I wouldn't mind. Anyway, moving on. Big fight.
Oh, yeah. You go.
The mini boss on the bus turns out to be this guy with a taser fist.
Oh, we find out he's Razor Fist later.
Razor Fist.
You're thinking a taser face.
Yeah.
I was thinking taser
Which
face. I thought it was taser face and taser fist. So laser fist.
It's definitely got to be a play on Taser Face, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it could very well be. I don't know.
So yeah, they're fighting. They're fighting. Something happens to the bus driver. She takes over as bus driver,
and the brakes go out
crazy. Too. And yeah, so the brakes.
Razor Fist like puts a sword through
the brake line.
Brake line, yeah.
Yeah, on accident. But so yeah, they're going down this hill. She's driving all crazy.
Because she's Asian.
But yeah, so anyway, end of the day, Taserface escapes with the pendant. They have a crash with a truck, and they move on with their lives.
Well,
when did he get that pendant, by the way?
He had gotten a letter or two earlier from his sister.
Oh, yeah. Back in his apartment, he had a postcard with a dragon on it.
And he thought it was from his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and had her address.
And when he got the jade necklace or whatever, like that was when Shang Chi was flipping, and he did that spin move in the air, like right in front of him, where he kind of like turned sideways. He's horizontal, and he's like.
Oh, so like if you pay attention, you can't actually like see the moment when it happened, or.
Well, it's hidden. Like it's while he's facing the other guy and away from the camera.
Oh, okay.
And then when he turns around, you don't see the necklace anymore.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like you said, eventually the bus crashes. Well, the back half of the bus, I guess, because it like gets torn off.
Yeah, part of it was like slicing the bus in half, and she turned a sharp corner, and the guy got ejected with the second half of the bus or something.
So then Sean goes back to his apartment, and he tells, and Katie's there too, and she's like, "What the hell is going on?" And he's like, "I'll explain later, but I gotta go now." And he takes the postcard or whatever, and he's like, and she's like, "You'll explain to me on the plane." Like she insists on going with him. So then now help me out here, because like here, like he tells in a flashback some of his childhood. I don't think this is where he mentions where his mom is killed, because that happens later.
Well, I don't know if it's real important, but basically after the mom dies, his dad puts the rings back on, and he starts training the son in this martial arts. So from like 5 until 13, 14, something like that, he's doing all these he's becoming a master martial artist.
Yeah, so he kind of, so this is montage of basically all kind of like the brutal training that he went through.
Right.
as
While
a
this
kid.
going on, the girl is denied the ability to train, so she kind of watches and trains by herself in the shadows.
Yeah, and she gets really good at the swinging the
Right.
chain type of
Yeah.
thing. And then like there's this like comedy spot where like the stewardess like interrupts them as he's like telling this story, and it pops back to the present with them on the airplane or whatever.
Right. Little comic relief again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they ran out of all the food.
Yeah.
So basically, they get down there and they get into this fight club, which turns out to be run by the sister. Like she's built up this business, and it shows the what is it, Wong?
Yeah, Wong and the Abomination, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're in like this battle royale cage, and they're fighting, and eventually Wong kicks his butt, and they both leave together.
Yeah, he like portals his arm so the Abomination like punches himself out.
Stop
Now-
punching yourself.
Now, when he was entering the building, Shang-Chi he signed this paper that he was told to sign.
Right. So he has to fight.
Now he has to fight.
Yeah, he had no idea what he was signing, but that's what he was signing.
Warriors get you every time.
And they're greeted by that Ronnie Chang guy from The Daily Show, who's
Yeah.
like a comedian or whatever.
He's more comic relief. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he fights the champion, who turns out to be his sister.
His
who runs the
sister.
place.
Yeah. And so, like, as they're fighting, he's basically trying to get her to stop fighting, and tells her that the dad's going to come after them, and like to end the fight, she like has to knock him out or whatever. And then so they're taught, and Aquafina like comes in with a bunch of money, and she apparently bet on the sister or whatever, another little joke or whatever.
She must have a pretty decent stack of cash to start with.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
She
she
got all
did,
her plane money back.
she did have that fanny pack on. She must have had some dollar bills in there.
That's where you keep your money.
So I don't know if they really say anything of consequence here, but it's not that long of a conversation until like the Fight Club starts getting infiltrated by their father's men. And
So at this point, it is a little convoluted because apparently the dad had this whole thing was his plan.
Yeah.
Instead of just like going and capturing them or something.
oh yeah, maybe that's what their conversation was about. Is that it was revealed that she didn't send him the postcard like he thought.
Right.
So it was
her
like
dad.
it was a dad, a ploy to get them together, I guess.
So yeah, they're all together. There's a bunch of bad guys coming. So they have all these big fight scenes and they're fighting the baddies.
Yeah, so he breaks a window. They go out on the scaffolding to get away, and like this is and I actually liked this fight scene too. I thought they had some good kind of fight choreography in here too. He's fighting all these ninjas throughout here, and they have like taser sticks that they're like trying to hit him with. And at one point, like Aquafina like is on this bamboo thing that like perilously like dangles, over the city, but he like grabs her at the last second.
No, he doesn't get her. The sister gets her
Oh, you're right. Yeah, the sister like dives out
because they had split apart. Like the sister had left him.
That's right.
And then like she comes back in at the last moment and saves her.
But in the mix of everything, I believe her pendant gets stolen by like one of the main baddies that's like wearing the mask so you can differentiate
Right?
him.
Yeah.
And she's like, he's got this thing. So Shang ends up going after him. No, just a second. Now, they kind of show in this fight, because I think the sister just like straight up, knocks a guy off the building to his death. And like, I think he kind of acknowledges that right there. But didn't he do the same thing? Didn't he?
Many times.
That's what I thought. Like, I was like, didn't many of the guys he fought like get thrown off the building too? But his were less intentional, I guess.
He literally walked over one's back and then knocked him down, like while doing that.
So he's chasing after this other guy. This other guy is about to jump on a helicopter and get away, but Shang cuts him off. They start getting into a fight, but it doesn't last super long. And like the dad comes in and he's got the sister and Aquafina, and like he got him basically.
Yeah. And he's like, I told them they'd never get you. or
They
something.
couldn't kill you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Glad to see I was right. Something stupid.
I knew about a dozen of my men would fall to their deaths.
Yeah, I knew this was like pretty pointless, but here we are.
Yeah, you figure if you're like one of those ninjas, he's like, what the fuck just happened?
Like he could have done that by himself. He could have walked in by himself with those rings and been like, "Yeah, you guys are coming with me."
By the way, if this guy was Genghis Khan, these guys have a lot of other brothers and sisters too, because that dude raped a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That dude.
It's like our mom's got a lot of half brothers out there you don't know about.
Yeah, yeah. If he goes on Ancestry.com, he's gonna find some shit. Okay, so he brings him back to
Just to touch on
ahead.
that, Genghis Khan was worth, I think, $100 trillion.
100 trillion.
Yeah, in today's money.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I don't know how you adjust horses and like sheep for inflation, but
Yeah, who did this calculation?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that.
He did all right for himself. The dad brings him back to his mountain stronghold, which is where they kind of grew up as a family. And this is where they have that conversation I was referencing earlier, where like he's talking about the importance of names, and he like asks Aquafina like, "What's your real name? You like your Chinese name or whatever?" And then this is where he references probably my least favorite movie in the MCU, which is Iron Man 3, which I think is a terrible movie and I don't like it.
yeah, this is a strange idea, but
No, it was good though. I think they did a good job of reconciling. Like
it was all right, I guess.
Yeah, he basically talks about how like, a terrorist or a bad guy wanted to scare people, so he invented a terrorist, an Asian terrorist, and he's like, you know what he called himself? The Mandarin, which is like an orange or whatever.
Right. But they'd hired his organization to do the dirty work.
Who did?
I think like the American government or somebody.
Wait, what? The government was working with the Ten Rings?
Right, the Ten Rings was actually doing the terrorist stuff. But like the other guy, he was the front man, right?
No, I thought that was just Aldridge Killian, who was in charge of all that. Like he was the one behind that fake Mandarin, and his organization was like.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense the way this guy talked about it that he would have been in like cahoots with him, since he didn't like that this guy like
Used his name or used his image.
Oh, maybe they tried to steal his image?
Mm-hmm.
something
Okay,
like
I
that.
don't know. At any rate, he was pissed off about it.
Yeah.
No, at this point in the movie, I was a little confused because I thought they had referenced the mother dying, but then he brings him into this other room and he starts talking about how like, I think your mother is being held in this place, and then because they hadn't shown the flashback scene yet where they showed the mother being killed. So I was a little confused. I was like, did I hear something wrong? Is she alive and just gone? What do you?
Well, the dad's under some kind of delusion or something.
Well, we find that out, but what did you guys think before it kind of revealed that part of it?
I thought they all believed she was dead, but then like maybe there was a way where she was maybe somewhere else, like. But the consensus was that she was dead before.
Okay, yeah, I was a little confused by that. So then, like, yeah, the father's convinced, like, he can hear her voice, and he's like, I think she's back, in that mysterious Talos or whatever village, and like the elders are like, hiding her away from us or whatever, because they don't like me. And Shang Chi is like, nah, this is bullshit. But then he takes the two jade pendants, and there's like this dragon statue, and he puts them in the eyes. And then this is kind of weird because it spits out this like CGI water that then goes down, and it creates this image of the forest maze, and it basically shows the way through, and I guess at what time to start.
Right, you have to know the path through and the time because the maze changes. So, but if you know those two things, then you can make it to like the gateway into the village.
But did this water make them wet at all?
No, it went around them, I think.
I was like, what the fuck is this mystic water? But this is one of those movies where they're just like, yep, there's some mystic shit going on. You don't have to question it, I guess. So the father basically tells Shang that like they're gonna go there and like if they have to, like they're gonna burn down this village to get the mother back or whatever. And like Shang's like, whoa, that's not cool, pops, or whatever he said. I don't know. And so then the father's like, you need to grow up or whatever. So he locks him, the sister, and Aquafina away in like a dungeon, and like they're gonna head out the next day or whatever to this place. So like now they're in the dungeon and like they hear a weird noise and like they go towards it and like it turns out to be Ben Kingsley. Because because basically their father was mad at this guy for pretending to be the Mandarin and was going to kill them. But then he started doing like his acting stuff, and they were like, "Oh, this guy's funny. We'll keep him around as like a jester."
Yeah.
Right. What is that? 1001 Tales or whatever. Like a Sherazad.
What's 1,001 Tales?
Like an Arabian Nights.
Arabian
kind of?
Nights. Where like he's gonna kill her, but every night she tells him a new story, and she kind of ends on like a cliffhanger. So you have to keep going and going.
Oh, I don't think I've ever actually like I've heard that story, but I didn't know what it was about.
That's pretty good. I liked it. Yeah.
So they're talking to him, and this like creature with like I don't know how to.
It's a furball with wings.
Yeah, furball with wings. He has like no face, just kind of like an ass on both sides, I guess.
They call him a furry pig, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Ben Kingsley refers to him as Morris, I think.
Yeah.
And he was from that like magical place or whatever, you know.
And Ben Kingsley can understand him while nobody else can.
Yeah. This is kind of like one of those like Chewbacca things where like, oh yeah, I can understand him perfectly.
He's been living down there with him for a while, so you know he's got time.
He
He can learn the language. Yeah.
I don't know if they really during that conversation say anything in consequence, but then the sister like breaks through the wall and she's like, "Oh yeah, there's this convenient tunnel system in here that I used to escape the first time."
Yeah.
Well, did we touch on the fact that like Morris knows the way back to Talo?
Right. So Morris can help him get through the maze before the time and path open because there's other ways, but you have to really know what's going on or you get killed.
Okay. The other thing I don't know if we touched on, and I actually don't remember where it comes up in the movie. You already talked about it a little bit. At some point, there's a flashback where, it shows like these mobsters that are mad at their dad track them down to like their home in that mountain stronghold, and they're like, someone's gonna have to pay the price. So like, the mom tells a young Shang Chi to like, go away, and she'll deal with these guys. And like he watches on, is like she fights them, but she eventually is killed by him. And then the dad shows up, and like he's all sad, obviously. And then like you were saying earlier, that's when he like goes back. He puts the rings back on. He ends up tracking these mobsters down to their bar that they hang out at. And basically Shang-Chi just watches as he like kills them all, right?
Right.
And he like tells them like, blood debt has to be paid in blood. Now, this is the part I'm kind of blanking on because Shang-Chi, this is another thing we haven't really talked about. He ran away from this place and he's been gone like 10 years. And I don't remember, was the dad trying to get him to kill somebody?
Right. He was supposed to do his first assassination job. And like in the middle of that, he just ran away and disappeared.
And then like a couple years after he disappeared, like the sister, I think, was upset that he wasn't around anymore. And
right, she was
ran
waiting
away
for him the whole time.
Yeah, and so she eventually got tired of the dad or whatever, and she escaped. She ran away.
6 years later, yeah.
And she went and started her Fight Club empire. Okay, so yeah, now they got the head start to Talos. So they're like in the car by the forest. And I think that maybe they have some sort of like funny banter here. I don't really remember. Oh yeah, the Ben Kingsley's just talking about how he saw Planet of the Apes or whatever, and
Yeah, that was stupid.
yeah, that was really dumb, and that's what made him want to act or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the forest opens up, and Aquafina starts driving through it, and basically she has to make like Ben Kingsley is listening to Morris, and like he's giving the instructions. He's like, in 3 seconds, make a hard right turn, right, and like so she's making all these like fancy like drift moves and like cutting through the forest or whatever, and it's a close call as the forest starts closing up behind them, but they make it, and then they like go through this like magical waterfall, which like transports them the rest
Yeah,
of
it's
the
like
way
a tunnel
another
slash
dimension, yeah.
something. Yeah.
Dimensional gateway.
This place they go to kind of reminded me of that like bullshit place that King Kong went in that Kong versus Godzilla movie.
No. To
Like-
the center of the earth.
Yeah, where does this place exist? But yeah, they go here and there's like all these like fantastical looking creatures, like with multiple tails, and then they see like more like the Morris type. Creatures.
Dragon.
Yeah, weird like dragon goat type things or whatever. And then they basically pull up to the village, and they see all the villagers. And at first, like the villagers want to fight them, but then their aunt comes out and like introduces everybody or whatever. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they're very like against them coming into the village, and then the aunt is like, it's cool, I know them. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they're
okay.
family.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't recognize him or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It was just it just felt a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember her name, Michelle Yao. I've seen her in other stuff like Star Trek Discovery. And
Yeah,
stuff.
she looked familiar. I couldn't place where.
She's been in a lot of stuff over the years. Wow. I mean, eventually they'll start training. I mean, basically,
they get that new armor too.
Right.
Yeah.
They get some armor.
I think basically they just warn them that hey, the dad's coming and we need to prepare,
Yeah.
right?
So the aunt teaches him some kung fu. There's an old guy that teaches the girl some archery.
Yeah, and they have dragon scale, which they use in both of their weapons and their armor, and like it has some sort of special property, right? Like
Yeah,
it
it's like super strong.
explodes and stuff.
It
too.
has special properties anyway. Magic.
Yeah, apparently the the ant teaches him to fight with his hands open instead of in fist or something, and that somehow
Yeah. He's like, it all makes sense now.
yeah, he's like
Slap him silly.
yeah, bitch slap him instead of punching him. God, it's genius.
That's going to teach him. That's going to put him in a mindset.
It's gonna emasculate him, and that's gonna be the key to getting those rings.
So she tells him about the story of the Dweller in Darkness. And this creature, apparently, so she hears about his father hearing their mother's voice. And she asks him, like, oh, okay, does he have the 10 rings? And he says yes. And she's like, okay, well, there's this creature that is behind this wall over here that we protect, or keep shut and locked away. And it has a way of like getting into the minds of powerful people and like trying to free itself. And that's what it was doing with their father. And she explains like it one time before had attacked their dimension, and it wreaked havoc on all their cities and decimated them. And they fought back, but they couldn't until the great protector dragon helped them. And then they fought it back and sealed it up.
Do they mention at that point that the protector was a dragon?
No, they
I
just
don't
say
know if
great
they said
protector.
it, but I kind of thought it was.
They say it's a great protector,
Okay.
but I already assumed it was a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I watched the trailer to the movies, and I think they kind of spoiled that. I think there's a point where it shows them in the water with the dragon.
Oh,
but-
right, yeah, he did. That.
So this old woman, drops a bunch of arrows, and like Aquafina like picks him up to help her, and then like brings him to the range, and she's like, "You shoot arrow or whatever." And so, she's like, "Okay." And then like they do this like little training montage, and like magically Aquafina is just like a great shot, you know. In no time at all, she becomes like a Hawkeye or something. Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else notable before like the attack commences?
Well, she trains him in the ways of their tribe's martial arts, so he learns that new style from her.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So yeah, so then the dad and his army show up. They start getting into a fight. Now I will say, I much preferred like the hand-to-hand fights earlier in the movie than like the fights that were going on in this sequence. I think, but it was okay. They all start fighting, and basically the dad splits off. And at one point, the sister's like, "Go after him." So he goes after them, and I think she starts fighting with Razor Fist or something. The dad at first is just in like this shrine they have to their mother that died, and like him and Shang have a conversation. Like you can still tell that they like love each other, but like he's trying to get his dad not to do this, and the dad's just like determined that the mother's on the other side of the gate. So yeah, they start fighting, and God, I don't even remember how this fight really went, except for it did have that kind of weird moment that parodied like the fight he had with the mother at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, except like his father straight up tries to kill him. Like he launched him into that water pretty hard.
Right. It ends with him getting his ass kicked, and he like lands in the water.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's in the water. The dad uses the rings to go over to the gate, and he like starts punching the gate, and it starts to weaken. And as it starts to weaken, these like tiny kind of dragon creatures come out.
They're like little demon bat
Like
things.
tentacle armed.
Yeah,
Cthulhu, little mini Cthulhus.
yeah, and we find out they basically have the power to like suck people's souls out and kill them. And then what they're doing is they take those souls that they collect back to the gate, back to the great darkness or whatever creature that's behind it. And if it gets enough souls, then it can break out of the cage.
Right.
And so one of these things comes toward. Well, first I think the sister's like telling the Razor Fist and those guys like we should work together, to this threat. And he's like, no, bullshit. And then one of those things comes for him, and he's like using his Razor Fist to try to kill it, but it just keeps it like he splits it apart, but then it just like congeals back together. But then we find out that the dragon scale weapons that they have are the one things that can kill these things. And so then Razor Fist is like, okay, yeah, we need to work together. And so, yeah, they start fighting all of these creatures. And then they go finally back down to the water. Like Shang-Chi's been in the water a while, but I guess it's like mystical water. And
It's
it
like
kind of
bubbles or like
you can kind of see it like bubbling to his nose and like oxygenating him so he keeps alive. And then he basically this dragon that's their great protector shows up, and then the next thing we know, like he's riding it like never-ending story style.
Right. I did get never-ending story vibes a few times.
He rides it out of there, and like it takes a big chunk out of the little soul sucker things. But then he basically, gets dropped off
To fight the dad.
So they start fighting, and I think while that's going on, I forget kind of the series of events, because eventually the sister sees the dragon, and she finds out like she kind of has that connection too, where she can ride it. And so I think she starts riding it, and at the same time, Shang Chi and the dad, they're fighting. At some point, like Shang Chi gets control of some of the rings,
Right,
and
like
they
half.
turn a different color. They turn orange instead of blue or whatever. And God, what happens? He like I don't know if he wins the fight and then the dark creature comes out, or
No, I think he was winning, but then he stops. He tries to talk to his father, like she's dead, like she's not coming back. There's something else, And his father,
Right, it comes out before the fight's over,
yeah,
and then the great dragon, the darkness, whatever, grabs the dad. That's when the dad transfers the other 5 rings to him. Mm-hmm. No, he does have all 10.
he had all 10 because he took him back. Because Shang-Chi like dropped
Oh,
him.
that's
He was
right. He
like,
dropped him and he took him back.
yeah,
And then he gave him back again.
Yeah.
when he was dying.
yeah. You're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah, so like the big dark creature like totally like sucks out his soul and kills him. And then it basically I think the creature's about to kill Shang, but then the sister shows up on the dragon and they both end up riding the dragon. And then it's kind of a fight between their dragon and the dark dragon.
Right.
I don't remember exactly how this went because like I think at the start they like their dragon kind of gets an upper hand on it, but then
It goes back and forth a little bit.
it keeps getting souls though. Like the people who are dying, it keeps
Right, so
getting
it's
their
getting
souls.
stronger.
Yeah, so it eventually gets to the point where it starts sucking the soul out of the protector dragon.
Right, and if it gets that, then it'll be unstoppable.
Yeah. So Aquafina is like they're both like preoccupied, Shang-Chi and his sister. So Aquafina is like, I gotta try to shoot this.
Yeah, you can see like the soul coming up out of the dragon, out
Yeah.
of his throat or whatever.
Yeah, and I think the old guy that was like the bowmaster, like he basically tells her like you got to shoot it in the neck, but then he's instantly killed by one of the soul suckers.
Right, so she has to take the shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, she takes the shot and of course hits it perfectly, and then doesn't Shang do something and like splits the dark dragon?
Maybe he has a finale. I don't remember.
At the end, he does something.
What does he do?
Remember, he uses the rings. He like shoves them into the creature at first, and then he like pulls the rings up. And,
Oh,
like,
okay.
it like explodes or something.
Yeah, I couldn't quite remember, but anyway, between the two of them, they blow it the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it cuts instantly, but eventually it cuts back to them having dinner with their high school friend again. And they're basically telling this story exactly as it happens, but she's basically just thinking like they're like fucking with her, making this elaborate story up to put her in her place or whatever. But then one of the Doctor Strange portals appears, and it's Wong, and he's like, "Shang, you need to come with me." And for some reason, Aquafina too. She'll be important.
Yeah, she just feels like she would be killed.
Yeah. Bring his sister. That's what I would bring, right? Like,
The sister's a better fighter. Yeah.
But she wasn't there.
she wasn't drinking at that restaurant, at that bar.
It'd be funny. And he's like, "You know what? Your high school friend too. You come on too." He's like, "We always need a Hawkeye, and this one we got. He's on his way."
Yeah.
So yeah, they go back there. Now this I don't remember because there's like a mid-credit sequence, and I don't remember like where the main movie ends and the mid-credit sequence picks up. Do you guys remember?
I don't know.
Yeah, basically, like when they're in that bar and they tell that story, right? Wong shows up and then he explains like these rings are sending off a signal, and Captain Marvel's there, and so is Bruce Banner.
But they showed up in the mid-credit sequence, didn't they? Or no? Or was it? Or were they at the?
It was in the credits.
That was
I
the
think,
credits.
wasn't it? Or was it just before the end? It doesn't matter.
There's 2 credit scenes, I think.
Yeah, I just didn't remember like how the main movie ended before they got to the mid-credit sequence because it kind of picks up in the same exact spot.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, yeah, like you were saying, like, yeah, the rings are giving off some sort of signal. Oh, by the way, like, there's a popular dragon in Marvel Comics called Fin Fang Foom. Do you think that was their dragon? I wasn't sure.
Well, I don't know what
They don't
you're
actually-
talking about.
They don't actually reference that name, so I didn't know if that was like a Marvel deep
All
cut.
dragons look the same to you.
Yeah, and I think Bruce Banner mentions that like Like it's not vibranium and it's not this, and they don't exactly know what the rings are.
Yeah, and Captain Marvel's like, I've been all over the place and I don't know what it is. And Bruce Banner says it's much older than 1,000 years because he asks him how long his father had it, and he says 1,000 years. And then Bruce Banner's like, oh, it's much older than that.
By the way, what's going on with the Hulk's continuity? Because wasn't in like Endgame, didn't he just like become the Hulk and like he could talk as Bruce Banner, like he was smart Hulk basically?
Right, he become like a composite. Like he could have the best of both worlds, but he wasn't quite as big as the real Hulk.
The talk is that he's going to come back for She-Hulk in that series a little bit, and then he might actually have a future as like Worldbreaker Hulk. So they maybe try to put him in that form so that he can go back to like Raging Hulk.
So can he basically, in continuity right now, he can like change to Hulk and back like anytime he wants?
I don't know in the MCU, but I would think.
I think
so.
it's just showed him as like the middle, hasn't it? Or
Well, I didn't know because like I thought it wasn't the last time we saw him before this appearance was like Endgame.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't know that he could just like change back to his normal self, I guess.
Well, in Endgame, he's like best of both worlds, right? He's like that way permanently.
Yeah.
And then he must have done something after that to where he could like go back to separating them or something.
I guess that's what I missed. Or also, was his arm in a sling?
Yeah,
Where was that from?
that's from Endgame when he snapped.
Oh, okay. I guess I lose track of time with these movies, and I'm like, I don't know like how much time has passed. It's kind of hard to keep track of that aspect of it. But okay, so yeah, and and then like they end there where like Wong's like, you should get some rest. There's some big things coming. And he's like, oh, we could do that. And so then it cuts to them partying up, singing karaoke, singing Hotel California, which was something they referenced earlier on in the movie, which wasn't a great joke, but they came back to it. So yeah, then we waited all the way through the credits. By the way, I'll say this, Marvel is famous for this now, but like I don't mind mid-credit sequences. I do kind of hate end credit sequences. Like I do appreciate all the people that put hard work in the movie, but I don't want to sit through them all. But I do for whatever stinger. But this one, basically, we get to the end, and it just kind of shows the sister. She's basically kind of recreating the Ten Rings organization out of her Fight Club. It looks like,
but with graffiti and girls.
Yeah,
with girls mostly.
Oh yeah,
half of them. I think.
Because she was mad because it was like such a sexist organization and women couldn't fight and stuff like that.
That's the problem with criminal organizations. They are kind of sexist. I'm dumb. Sorry.
There's got to be like a female mafia somewhere, doesn't there?
I don't know. I'm gonna look into that though.
Hey, am I making this up? Or like in the 90s, wasn't there like a female motorcycle gang called Dykes on Bikes?
I mean, probably.
I want to say I'm not making that up.
Probably.
It's like this is fan fiction you wrote a long time ago and you just like don't even remember
Just
it.
Lucy Lawless and Gabrielle.
Now, with that end credit sequence, do you think they're making the sister somewhat villainous?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. She didn't seem villainous to me at that point.
She's one of those people I think they could kind of play either way.
Yeah.
Or, kind of in the middle. But that sequence kind of made me think that, they're setting her up as to be kind of maybe quasi-villainous, but I wasn't sure. All right, guys, before we give our final scores, is there anything else you can think of that you maybe want to touch on?
Well, I made it through without shitting my pants, but
Getting close.
like it's important.
You're on the edge.
I gotta say, like for me, like the father was a very, I thought, good character to follow in that movie. He was kind of like this, almost a main character with Shang-Chi.
Yeah, he was very split on his like good and evil standpoint. So
Yeah, I like the actor. He was good.
I was wondering, like, if I've ever seen him in other stuff. I'm not sure. But he got a big role in this movie anyway. I bet a lot of these people are, like, super famous, like,
China,
overseas,
yeah.
and we just don't know them.
Yeah.
Like I knew Aquafina and I knew Michelle Yao, but I don't think I really knew any of the other actors.
I kind of thought it would be cool if they had given Jackie Chan a scene in this movie, man. Like if he was the old guy who like helped her with the arrows or something. Like,
I could definitely see them roping him in future installments.
yeah, because I think all this influence, he was like he opened the doorway. Him and Bruce Lee and all those guys. Like, but yeah, like he's huge. He kind of is owed a part to say, like in a way, in one of these movies.
I actually saw like the other day someone on Twitter had like a kind of a long GIF that showed a clip of like a Michelle Yao movie, like from when she was like younger, a martial arts movie, and like I forget what it was called, but like it was actually a really cool like action scene. Like she was kicking ass and it looked really good. I was like, damn, might have to find that movie.
So she actually knows her stuff, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
seemed like it anyway. All right. What would you guys give Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings out of 10?
I liked it. I think it can still be better though, so I give it a 7 out of 10, a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm probably between 7 and 8.
I'm exactly the same. I'm going to give it 7 rings out of 10 rings. Yeah, totally solid. Maybe not like out of the park, but yeah, very, very pleasant watch. A very solid entry in the MCU, I believe.